In this video, we're going to talk about slope. Now, you can find slope by finding the rise over the run. Another way to say that is the change in y over the change in x. And another way to write that is to take y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, where your x1, y1 is 1 point, and your x2, y2 is a second point. Now, there are 4 different kinds of slopes that you can run into. You have a positive slope, which means if you look at the line, it's going to go up left to right. So when you look at a graph, you want to look at the graph just like you're reading a book, and you want to scan it. Let me do this in another color. You want to scan it left to right. So as I come out this way, left to right, I go up. I come out this way, I go up. Come out this way, I go up. That means this is positive. So this would be your change in x, this distance from here to here. And this distance from here to here is your change in y, because y is your vertical change and x is your horizontal change. So for example, if I had a point here, just making something up, let's say this was the point 0, 3, and let's say this was the point 2, 5. Then my change in x, right, from 0 to 2, in the positive direction, that's a change of 2. My change in y, that's from 3 to 5. That's my difference in my y value. That's also a change of 2 in the positive direction. So then when I take my change in y over my change in x, that gives me 2 over 2, and I would have a slope of 1. And that's positive. It's going up left to right. Now, if I had a negative slope, then that means it's going down looking at it left to right. If I had a slope of 0, that means my line is horizontal. That also means that my change in y is going to be 0. There's no height change. It goes straight across. Okay? Then, if I had a slope that's undefined, that means my line is going to be vertical, which means my change in x is 0, because I'm not going in either direction horizontally. I just keep moving up. There's no change horizontally. Now, if I look at the difference between 0 and an undefined, one thing I want you to pay attention to, remember, your slope, which a lot of times we call m, is the change in y over the change in x. So in this case, if I pick 2 points on my line, let's say this was the point, I'm just going to make something up. Let's say this is the point 37, and let's say this is the point 57. Okay, my change in y is 0, right? From 7 to 7, there's no vertical change. So my change in y would be 0. My change in x would be 2. From 3 to 5, that's a change of 2. It doesn't matter what's on the bottom, as long as it's not 0. Any other number on the bottom other than 0 would be okay. If 0 is on the top, then the slope is going to be 0. Okay, now here, if I look at the vertical line with an undefined slope, that's my change in y over my change in x. Let me make up 2 points here. Let's say this was the point 1, 3, and let's say this was the point 1, negative 1. Okay, my change in y, there's a vertical change to go from 1, negative 1 to 1, 3. My vertical change would be from -1 to 3 would be 4. It's going in the up direction, -1 to 3, it's up positive 4 points. And then my change in x is 0, right? My x is the same, there's no change. So that would be 0. And we know that whenever we divide by 0, that's undefined. Something also I want to mention, when you find the slope on a test or a quiz, okay, do not write no slope if it's one of these special cases, because that is very confusing. It's either 0 or undefined. When you say no slope, that is confusing because you don't know if you mean that it's undefined, that there is no slope, or 0 meaning there's no slope. So don't use the term or the phrase no slope. Be sure to list your special case as either 0 or undefined, in no other way. Okay, let's look at an example here. It says, find the slope of a line that passes through the 2 points, 2, -1, and -5, 3. So if I think of this as my first point, x1 and y1, and I think this x2, y2, and I remember my formula is the change in y over the change in x, or another way we can write it is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 minus y1, that's 3 minus a -1. Be careful with those double negatives. There's a minus in the formula to take the difference, and then there's a negative in our number for y1. So I'm taking 3 and I'm subtracting a -1, and then when I take x2 minus x1, that gives me a -5 minus 2. So that gives me a 4 on top, 3 plus 1, because I've got a double negative, and then -5 minus 2 on the bottom gives me a -7. Okay, let's take a look at the picture. Okay, if I were to plot the point 2, -1, that would be right here. And then if I were to plot the point -5, +3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 3, that would be right here. And then if I were to draw the line that passes between those 2 points, this is what it's going to look like. Now, if I use these 2 points for my steps, if you notice my change in y, that's my vertical change. It goes from -1 to +3, that's a change of 4. And then my change in x is going to be from here to here, so that's going to be a change of 7. And then if I look at this, it's going down left to right, so my slope should be negative. And that is exactly what we've got here for our final answer. It's a -4, 7 slope.